Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our candidates forum for 2020. Tonight, we have the 7 candidates running for the San Juan Unified School District Board of Education. There are 3 seats on the ballot this year. Tonight, you will hear from each of the candidates as they answer 7 questions from 2 of our student moderators. Each candidate will have a chance for an opening statement. They will each get to answer each of the 7 questions, and then they'll have a chance for a closing statement before the evening is done. So with that, I'd like to get it started with opening statements. And I would invite Ms. Melinda Avey to begin with her 90-second opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. And first of all, I want to thank the district and the student organizers for providing us with this opportunity. It's Zoom, so it's kind of different for everybody. I am Melinda Avey, and I am a candidate for the school board this year. And I want to tell you a bit about myself. I've lived in the district for 40 years. I have 4 kids, and they all went to San Juan schools. Right now, I have 4 grandchildren, and they're enrolled in San Juan schools, and I have 2 more that'll be there in a couple of years. So over the past 40 years, I've had either a child or a grandchild enrolled in San Juan. So I have a lot of skin in the game. I'm invested in this district, and it's home to me. I'm a local business owner, and more importantly, for the last couple decades, I've been leading county boards and commissions and working with the community to find solutions to problems like homelessness, criminal justice reform, mental health treatment, alcohol and drug addiction, and many more. The school board is tasked with providing each student with the high quality education that they need to be successful, and also providing the advocacy and leadership within the community necessary to achieve that goal. And right now, too many kids are failing, and we have to turn that around. Over half of our kids are below grade level in math and English and language arts, and only 41% are ready for college or career. And there's lots of reasons for that, but it's time for new ideas. My priority issues are providing that high quality education to all students, protecting the physical and mental health of both students and teachers, especially during this pandemic, where that is so much more on everyone's mind. And also maintaining fiscal responsibility. As we go forward, it will be difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avey. And next will be Mr. Andrew Bland.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Good evening, everyone. I'm running for office because I believe I'm the right candidate for this particular moment in time, partly because of who I am personally, what my priorities are, and the state of the board as it stands. For me, I've lived in the district just about my entire life. By the end of my term, or end of the term, the next coming term, both of my kids will be in San Juan schools. I went to San Juan schools through middle school. My mom taught at San Juan schools for 20 plus years, and I'm familiar with the community just generally speaking. I think more importantly than that is the priorities that I have are reflective of the district, whether that's diversity and inclusion of minority students or students with disabilities, continuing to integrate technology into education, college and career readiness, pre-K education, looking at the curriculum and ways that we can improve and stretch, or how we look at disciplining students. I think those will connect with people given the current state of things. Lastly, and I mean this not with any feeling towards the incumbents, I think organizations are healthy when there's new blood. When there's new ideas, when there's people asking new questions, when they're looking at things in a different way.
So I'm going to have to cut you off, and we're going to move to Mr. Brewer.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Hi, how's it going, everybody? My name is Garrett. I just want to introduce myself. I've lived in the district since about 2005 when my family moved here. I haven't attended San Juan schools personally, but I have many family members that have. Currently, I have a young cousin that goes to Pasadena, and I'm very involved with him and his academics. I chaperone field trips and such at the school. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, I consider myself a professional student of sorts. I've been in school for most of my life and currently in school earning my master's in education to become a high school teacher. And I'm someone that has moved around a lot. I've been to almost 15 schools in my academic career, those ranging from public schools, private schools, Catholic, Christian, Seventh-day Adventist. I've also, since I've graduated college, been a substitute teacher. And so that has also afforded me many travels where I've come in contact with many different students and different administrations. And so I'm just well-traveled and very diverse in thought. And my reason for running is I think I have a lot of good ideas that are grounded in these experiences. And, you know, I would like to put my ideas to use. You know, I think I have just I think I represent the youth well,
Mr.
and I
Brewer,
understand what they want.
I'm going to have to cut you off, and we will move to Miss Pam Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Allen, and thank you to our student moderators. We really appreciate this opportunity to inform our community about probably one of the most important functions our Board of Education. I'm Pam Costa. I graduated from Encina High School and became a first-year teacher in San Juan and continued my entire adult career in the San Juan Unified School District. I was a teacher, a principal, a director of the early childhood education programs, director of 23 elementary schools. I also served as the person in charge of equity and diversity in our district, organized the parent town hall meetings, served on negotiations for classified, for teachers, and for our administrators unit. When I was elected to the board in 2012, the California School Boards Association asked me to start training training school board members across the state of California in what teaching and learning and a board member's responsibilities are. And I tell you all of that, as well as knowing that as a parent of a student in San Juan and a grandparent of 2 future students in San Juan, that experience matters in this position. It matters to understand educational issues. It matters to know what has come before and what has worked and hasn't worked, and to constantly try to improve.
And I'm going to have to cut you off.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, you are on mute, sir.
Try that again. Hello, everybody. I'm Saul Hernandez. I'm very grateful to be here with you this evening. Thank you very much to all of you that are watching this via YouTube. I realize this is quite unusual. I'd like to thank my candidate colleagues for their willingness to serve our community and our school board. Just a little bit about me. I am married to my wife, Gina. I have 4 children, all of which attend San Juan schools. We currently have 7 grandchildren. I have owned and operated a small business in our community for over 29 years. I've been honored to be on the board since 2012. I have learned a great deal since then. We have done some great things like building new schools in the West End, but we still have much to do. If elected, I look forward to the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. And next we will move on to Ms. Raya Skrinig. Ms. Skrinig, you are on mute as well if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Okay, here I am. My name is Raya Skrinig. Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's a great opportunity to connect and to learn about each other. Well, I came to United States after I graduated from high school back in the Soviet Union. So I have different perspective, different experience in my high school, but I got 4 children here in the United States, and all of them went through San Juan School District. 3 of my older kids graduated from IB Maraloma High School, and they all exceeded in their career. And I'm very proud of them. And I know San Juan School District provided them with the best education possible. And also I have one more child at Miraloma High School. She is a high schooler. And I have two grandkids. Hopefully they're going to go through San Juan School District as well. Well, when I came to the United States, my first internship was at Cal OSHA Department, State of California, and I learned how to create protocols for safety and how to maintain health of the public. So then I worked for the Air Quality Management District for 15 years in enforcement department, where I was ensuring compliance of local businesses. Then a little bit later, I decided to get my master's degree in counseling education.
Time, and I'm going to have to cut you off at this point. So thank you. And we will move on to our last candidate, Ms. Paula Vieskas.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Hi, my name is Paula Vieskas, and I'm currently the board president for the San Juan Unified School District. Thank you very much to our moderators and our students who've joined us today. And thank you as well to the candidates all here this evening. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and run for office, and I'm excited about the dialogue we will have here this evening. A little bit about myself. I am a proud graduate from Miraloma High School and a proud product of public education schools. Upon graduating from Miraloma, I was the first person in my family to go to graduate from college. I went off to UC Berkeley and came back home to serve my community. I was raised by a single mother with an 8th grade education and learned single-handedly the importance of a good quality education. And I attribute all of my professional success and my desire to serve to the wonderful teachers and counselors who have made me a successful adult. If you want a candidate who is a champion for equity, knows that diversity is our greatest strength and enriches our community, and believes that all students have the potential to succeed, I ask for your vote.
Thank you, Ms. Vieskas. And that concludes our opening statements. We will now move on to our question and answer session. And we have sourced all of our questions tonight by going out to our community, asking our students, our staff members, and our parents and guardians what topics and questions they wanted to have asked tonight. We then took those topics and questions that were submitted and to our Students Advisory Council for our superintendent. And the students actually reviewed all those topic areas and questions and came up with the questions for tonight's forum. We have two of our Student Advisory Council members with us tonight, Ms. Grace Fries from Del Campo High School and Lindsay Duncan from Casa Robo. Grace, if you would introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's really nice to be here. I see a lot of familiar faces. As Mr. Allen said, my name is Grace Fries. I've been a student in San Juan since kindergarten, and I'm a senior right now. I'm currently the CEO of a nonprofit at Del Campo known as Kids Helping Kids, and I also direct a play at Schweitzer Elementary School, which is an elementary school in San Juan, and I've been doing that since my sophomore year, and I'm really happy to be here, so thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, Grace. And Lindsay, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Duncan. I'm a senior at Casa Roble Fundamental High School. I've gone to San Juan schools my entire life, and I've always been really involved in my school community. I'm a strong believer in civic participation, and after high school, I want to study English and sociology at UC Berkeley. Thank you.
Thank you both again for being here, and to our Superintendent Student Advisory Council for helping us with the questions tonight. With that, we're going to jump straight into the questions. Again, each candidate gets to answer each question. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to provide their response. And Lindsay, we'll start with you asking the first question.
Okay, thank you. So the first question is, as a board member, how would you reach out to members of the community, students, and families to inform your decision-making process? And the first person to respond to that question is Mr. Brewer.
Can you hear me? Awesome. So, I'm sorry. Okay, so to answer your question, how I would get my message out to the community is I'll use a number of ways. Social media is one way, especially to get a message out. Also, mailers, if I could have access to that. And yeah, I think those will probably be my two main ways.
And Lindsay, who's our next respondent?
Next is Ms. Vieskas.
Thanks, Lindsay, for the question. And this is definitely a priority issue, particularly when we have significant events such as COVID or other items going through. It's really important that our community stay well informed, and it's our responsibility to do that. And it's an area that can always use extra improvement, but we do have a number of ways that we currently engage with our community members to ensure that both they are up to date on the latest the school district, but also to get their input. It's a two-way street. It's not just us disseminating information. It's a feedback cycle so that we can learn and inform each other in decision-making processes. We've got a variety of committees that have very active participation from our community members. We've got our local control LCAP plan, as well as a transportation committee and a number of other committees that we rely on for input. But in addition to that, you know, our schools really are our voices. Our parents trust their teachers and their principals. They might know a little bit about the Board of Education, but they definitely know what's going on with their schools. And I just love some of the innovative ways that our school leaders have gone above and beyond to reach our communities, particularly hard to reach communities. And I think of our efforts over at Greer, really reaching out to parents and communities in apartments to meet families where they're at. And that's a key part of communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Mr. Hernandez.
Let me unmute. Can you hear me now? Thank you for the question, Lindsay. And this by far is probably one of our biggest concerns we hear about is communication. And it's not that we don't communicate, it's just that we have a very large system. We have 64 schools with a little over 39,000 kids. So as a result of that, communication is vital. And it was mentioned earlier, we all as board members participate, or liaisons, if you will, to committees. I happen to be the liaison for our facilities committee, which is a pretty big responsibility because it takes into account all of the facilities that we have, do construction and things like this. But reality as a board member, that communication comes directly to us or you as board members. I can't tell you how many emails we receive or how many calls. I received a call today from a concerned person, and you know, I was able to help them, point them to the direct staff member, and believe it or not, so it's personal, individual, as well as the chains, if you will, through the schools and our community efforts through our committees is a big reason how we communicate. So it's a little of everything, but it is a challenge. We are very large, but I think we do a good job, but we need to do better.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Skrinick.
Yes, hi. Well, it's a good question. Communication is vital during COVID-19, and it's been vital regardless. I believe that we all have responsibility to communicate individually and corporately. Well, as a chapter, I used to be as a chapter chair of the National Career Association for the local chapter of Sacramento County, and I represented educators for the legislative processes, and I communicated back to the community through the conferences, through the teamwork, through collaboration with different agencies, through emailing listing, through a personal interaction with certain people, key people, and of course inviting key speakers to address specific issues. That's, I think, would be the best way to communicate at any time, especially during COVID time.
Thank you. Ms. Avery?
I'm unmuted. Thank you. Communication to me is critically important. As I said, I've served on advisory boards for 20 years. So I consider the advice that we give the Board of Supervisors to be really important. But I also consider that we represent a community as members of those advisory boards. So what we do is we go out to the community. We find groups, we go to businesses, we go to PAC meetings, we go to PBID meetings, we go to all kinds of community meetings. And what we do is we listen. And that listening informs our opinion, it informs our knowledge, we understand where the community is coming from. So I can't stress the importance of going out to the community. And it's something that I'll continue to do. When I started on the advisory boards, people said, oh, you won't have time, there's so much to do. That's not true. It's a priority for me. Working with communities is how we make all of this work. And it's how we get people on board and pointed in the right direction. When we listen, we just do better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Bland?
Yeah, thank you. For me, it's going to be two things that have already been touched on by the other candidates. The first being technology, like Mr. Brewer said, utilizing social media. But secondly, and I think probably most important on that prong, is making sure that we're collecting emails and cell phone numbers, parents and people that are involved with the district, creating listservs. So as communications go out, it's as easy as clicking a button, sending out the email, sending out the text messages. And then secondly, building off what Ms. Avey had said, showing up and listening, whether that is committee meetings, going out to events, being engaged for the community, for the parents, and for the students.
Thank you. Finally, Ms. Costa?
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Prior to COVID, I have visited every school in the San Juan district. I've walked classrooms. I have talked to students. I've talked to teachers. I've talked to administrators and parents who were on the campus. That's one way that I get input so that I know questions to ask based on what I'm seeing and hearing from people. Once COVID came into place, social media became critical. It was an opportunity to listen in on conversations about what was happening in classrooms, the struggles that teachers were having, the struggles that students were having, and parents. And so that helped me to inform my decisions, but it also, San Juan, I think, does a really good job of listening and of taking information from our community, our stakeholders, and working to improve things. So that's one way we communicate. We communicate through our board-appointed committees and our citizen committees. That gives us feedback from parents. The superintendent student advisory committee gives us feedback from students. When I first became a board member, a fellow board member at the time told me never put frozen food in first at the grocery store because people will stop you and talk to you. I thought she was kidding. My first visit to the grocery store after becoming a board member, everything defrosted.
Time, I'm going to have to stop you there.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to move on to our second question of the night. So I'm just going to read it and then we'll go from there. So the question is, how can the district build a culture of inclusion and safety for people of color and other marginalized groups, such as students with disabilities and who are in the LGBTQ+ community? And Ms. Vieskas, this goes to you.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that question. I'll naturally have to go back kind of and look over the last 4 years. It's such an important and critical question, and really an opportunity to highlight that truly in San Juan, we believe as a core value that diversity is our strength. And I was just so proud of our efforts to implement the FAIR Act to the fullest extent possible. And though there was a significant disagreement throughout the community, we knew it was the right thing to do. The first thing that we must do is improve and make students of all categories in all of our different classifications. Every student needs to feel connected to school. And in order to do that, they need a curriculum that they feel applies to them. And that's why the FAIR Act was so important. And it's initiatives like that and our our work around equity and making sure that at every level that our parents, our students, and our staff all feel connected and represented within our community and can show up as themselves and ready to learn and give their all to their education. That is our job and our responsibility, and I'm really proud of our efforts over the last 4 years to do so, though we still have a lot of growth there, and it has not taken a backseat to our COVID response, which I'm very proud of.
So I'm going to have to cut you off there.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hernandez, you are next.
Thank you so much, Grace. Outstanding question. And this is very important to the district. 5 years ago, we developed the Department of Equity, and they have worked tirelessly trying to meet with our community partners, students, and staff. As a result of that hard work, just recently in August, the board approved an 8-point commitment. And that 8-point commitment is basically, I don't have time to talk about each one of those, and I encourage everyone to please visit our website. But it basically is this, that we treat everybody fairly and with dignity, and at the same time, we respect them. Excuse me. These lessons, learning lessons, or listening lesson sessions, we learned a lot from that because these were students that were telling us things that were going on their campus that just cannot be tolerated. And so as a result of this, we are committed now to this 8-point commitment, and we are going to get better. But the key is basically treating everybody fairly and with dignity. And it starts there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ms. Skrinick, you are next for this question.
Well, it's a very good question. First of all, San Juan School District has about 46.7% low-income families and 10% of kids with disabilities. Those people having trouble right now, they don't have any visual feedback in the school system right now. We don't know what's going on with them. It's very difficult to motivate kids to study when they live with parents who own substance abuse or during domestic violence. We don't know what's going on. The digital device is very stubborn thing. And I believe to fix this problem, we should have those kids show up in our schools at least once a week to make sure they are safe, to make sure they have safety protections, to make sure they have social distance, and they have normal checkup with our teachers, with our staff, so they can be noticed and they can be listened to. I believe that it's our time to expect that kids can take even responsibilities for respecting each other and to keep distance and to have a personal hygiene in place. I believe that school can do it also through the small cohorts, life skills sessions where we can connect and listen to kids in a small cohort.
That is time, so I'm going to have to stop you there and move on to our next respondent.
Thank you so much. Ms. Avey, the question now goes to you.
Ms. Avey, you are on mute if you would like to restart your response.
I always find I say my best stuff on mute. So this is an important question. It's important, especially now. And San Juan did conduct a robust community engagement process around bias. And I thought that was fantastic because I was able to listen into a couple of those things. I think bias is built on ignorance. And the antidote to that is education and dialogue. It's always nurtured by the status quo. We just get used to saying certain things, thinking certain things. So the conversations can be difficult. So again, I think communication is the basis for creating inclusivity for all of our students and our teachers. I think we need to talk about it. There's a practice, restorative justice. It's long to try to explain that right now, but I think it's a particularly effective way to deal with problems when they come up with bias in the schools. So that is something that I would be looking at very closely. And again, thanks for that question.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now we're going to move the question to Mr. Bland.
Thank you. I do want to commend the board and the district for trying to make strides in regards to issues of diversity and inclusion. Through Project Equity, the Equity Task Force, the Fair Act, they are making changes, but that still doesn't change the fact that, for example, African Americans rate significantly lower on sense of belonging and school culture surveys than other students. There is a lot more work to be done in this space. The two things that I would like to see that the district currently doesn't do are one, measuring the hiring and retention of administrators and teachers of color, and then looking at if they do leave, why they left, and how we can kind of bridge that gap and make sure that people are staying. Excuse me. And then secondly, a curriculum that reflects the makeup of the district. And maybe that reflects foreign languages, maybe that's ethnic studies, but something that showcases the full breadth of the American experience, different cultures, and making sure that every student feels like they have a home here.
Thank you, Mr. Bland. I appreciate that. The question now goes to you, Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Grace, and thanks for the question. San Juan started on this journey actually back in 1973. We have continued to address it in many different ways. And I think this last push that has occurred is probably going to be the most exciting and the most productive of any that we have established. It started with Listening to Heal, a series of sessions with our community, with students, with parents, with community members, with our employees, and then went into In Solidarity. I had the honor of being able to attend every one of those sessions and listen to the thinking that was taking place. From that, the 8 commitment points to educational justice came out. One of those is in retention of employees. And I think it's also important to note, we need to make sure our employees feel that they are all treated equally and with equity. And so that becomes something also that's important. It also includes having courageous conversations, talking to students, increase student voice. And with all of that, I think we will see great growth in San Juan. For our special education students, I'm thrilled that our new Director of Special Education is doing Meet the Team, 2 meetings a month.
Costa, that is
every
time, and I'm going
parent.
to have to cut you off there and move on to our next respondent.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then last but definitely not least, we have Mr. Brewer to answer the question.
All right, thank you for your question. I think it's a great one. I graduated from Intercom High School, which is ranked one of the most diverse high schools in the country. And after graduating, I attended University of San Diego, which was about, had only about 8% minorities. So being that drastic of a change, I could really appreciate how important diversity is. To include diversity, first you have to acknowledge that there is a non-inclusive system, and take measures to amend that. The next I would say is probably a staff that represents the student body. When the teachers can understand their students and know their culture and where they're coming from, then they can reach out and make strides, in education to just to bridge the gap that we're attempting to. I would say another way to combat diversity, or to get more diversity in the schools, would be equitable education practices. So serving the underserved and making those strides to, like I said, bridge the achievement gap. And I'd also say marginalized students feel uncomfortable in schools, so we have to create a culture where it is uncomfortable
I'm gonna have to cut you off there.
All right, where it's uncomfortable to marginalize, is what I was trying to say. Thank you.
And if Lindsay would like to move us on to our next question.
Thank you so much. So our next question is, as a follow-up to the prior question, how would you prioritize budget spending to support building a culture of inclusion? And our first respondent to that question is Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you so much. I think the number one thing I learned as a new board member was that understanding the budget is absolutely crucial. 92% almost of every dollar goes to a paid adult in our district. So that doesn't leave, did I say dollar? 92 cents of every dollar, excuse me. So that doesn't leave much. So that's why we must prioritize the important things. And when you have a budget over, 500 million for so many schools and so many students, we must prioritize the need that our students have. This obviously is a commitment from the board and our staff and our schools that we have to maintain that children feel safe. And part of that, unfortunately, at some of our low performing schools, suffer from social economics. And as a result of that, it's very easy to say that they underperform compared to other schools. But then when you peel back the layers of the onion, you realize that these students need other help. They need help. They need counselors, because it's very hard to teach a child math when they're wondering what they're going to eat that night or where they're going to sleep. So these social programs that we have to help with these students is vital.
And Mr. Hernandez, I do have to cut you off for time there. I apologize.
No worries. Thank you.
And Lindsay, if you'd give us our next respondent, please.
Thank you so much. So our next respondent is Ms. Skrinick.
Yes, well, during COVID-19, our governor has promised that he will maintain and help maintain educational fundings during this period of time. And well, we have to look at the reality. Schools like San Juan School District is aging entity. And when the whole body is aging, we need to keep up with the right balance. And this balance is between enrollment and state teacher retirement plan and PERS. So we have to see where patients right now and how we can meet the balance, what we can do to reach this equilibrium for school to be healthy financially. And I believe the allocation of money should go into infrastructure. The best investment was to provide kids with Chromebook, but now we need to build infrastructure where kids can use Chromebook in their school classrooms to and develop their individualistic learning plan for maximizing their potential for life career. And I believe we are on the right track. We need to support each other to get there and to build that best possible.
I'm going to have to stop you there. And
can I interject? I'm sorry. I didn't hear the question. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so the question is, as a follow-up to the prior question, how would you prioritize budget spending to support building a culture of inclusion? And the next person that will be responding to the question is Ms. Avey.
Thank you. A couple of things come to mind. Number one is we need to hire teachers that reflect the diversity of our student body. So that would be a priority for me. And I think there's different ways that we can go about that. Training kids when they're in school to want to become teachers. I know that going to college and getting a degree and becoming a teacher costs money, and that can be really a barrier for some people. So maybe working with the business community, maybe working with outside partners to find funds to fund schools so that we can have a more diverse workforce. The other thing that I would do is do more collaboration with community-based partners in terms of providing social services to those families that you talked about, Mr. Hernandez, in these neighborhoods that life is so difficult for them. And we have a lot of community partners that are funded, so the school district wouldn't have to pay for the funding, but we can partner with them and they can provide some of these services to strengthen our communities, strengthen our families, and strengthen our students. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Mr. Bland.
With so much of the budget dedicated towards staffing, I think it makes the most sense to focus the money there. And whether that's hiring more people of color, whether that is looking at how we retain administrators and faculty of color, or looking at the policies that we have in place to guide those decisions. I think all of those things should be on the table. And lastly, I think working with teachers and the teachers' unions to get training that helps them make connections with students from different backgrounds, so that inclusion and diversity is just a natural part of the classroom and the day-to-day culture in the district.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Lindsay. I think, first of all, we have programs in place that we can utilize, so it may not take extra money. We have our multiple tiers of student support, which provides both social and emotional supports as well as academic interventions on campuses. So that's something that is occurring right now. We have had an outreach to hire staff who reflect our student community, and that has been going on for the last 3 years, including a program to work to hire classified employees to go back to school to get their teaching credential to become teachers in the district. So those are some programs that are already happening. I think professional development is critical to this piece, and it includes having conversations with not just teachers, but teachers, classified employees, supervisors, bus drivers, administrators. We have been doing that, but I have seen a more concerted effort at the start of this year, and I think it will be ongoing. Whether a student's interacting with the bus driver or whether a student's interacting with their classroom teacher, it's going to be important that every employee know how to reach out to students to help them feel more secure. Our FACE department works with parents, and I think that's another way that we can reach out and help families to feel more included in our community.
I'm going to have to stop you there.
Thank you. Mr. Brewer, the question goes to you.
Hi. So I believe that the teachers you have to make it attractive to be a teacher, essentially. So increasing teacher salaries would be a great place to start, because that would help retain the best teachers and make it attractive for new teachers to come. I'll speak on my own experiences. I'm swimming in debt trying to get my my teacher credential, and I know my starting salary is not going to be super high. So just make it more attractive to be a teacher. Also, if we could give teachers more money to make their classrooms more individualized, so then that way they can all the students can get a more robust education experience, you know, based on their teachers' culture and their teachers' background, and also just adding more technology in schools. It's integrating into our society more and more every day. So in order to keep up the pace, we need to invest in our students, that they can you know, compete and fill out their civic responsibilities once they graduate.
Thank you. And our final respondent to this question is Ms. Vieskas.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. You know, San Juan is the 11th largest school district in the state, and it's often said, if you want to see someone's priorities, you look at their budget. And we have a massive budget that can be a little bit hard to wrangle, but the trip to diversity and inclusion, it's not a line item in a budget. That's not how you really affect systemic change. So instead, what you'll see is that we have taken significant strides to build in this work in every aspect of who we are and what we do, including the expansion, you know, training and professional development opportunities. Those have always existed, but making sure that there's a concerted effort to engage on the equity pieces and what that means, and truly understand where all of our students and families are coming from. That has been a key priority. We've also prioritized giving our sites what they need in order to meet the needs of our very diverse student population. So making sure that the money is able to be prioritized at the site level. And as has already been mentioned, a key priority that was identified by our 8-point equity plan was to increase workforce diversity. So it's all of these pieces together that really will achieve this outcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you everybody for all of your answers. Thank you, Lindsay, for asking that question. We are gonna move on to the next one. So to begin, it is, how do you see the COVID-19 pandemic impacting the district's budget and finances in the next few years? If budget cuts are necessary, what would you cut and what would you protect? And Ms. Skrinick, this question goes to you first.
Well, this pandemic, we have uncertainty. We don't know how it's going to unveil and what to expect in January. Even though we're trying to aim to open schools, we have to take very high measures in providing safety and providing very high sanitation. So in my opinion, I believe that schools need to recreate health and safety protocols that includes measuring temperature, includes providing PPE, includes distancing, that includes small groups of people not intersecting with other groups of people. So it includes all of these safety precautions. Also, I believe we have to have finances to allow kids school shoes so they can change shoes while they come into the school premises. And they should have scrubs on the top of their clothes. So in this way, we can prevent and provide kids with safety, prevent any kind of unnecessary spread of virus. And we have to bring more janitorial staff to clean the school and to bring more IT staff to teach kids about computer literacy. I believe those two things are crucial right now. If we go that direction, you'll
stop you there and move on to our next respondent. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next respondent is Miss Avey, if you'd like to answer the question.
Thank you. I would. That is also a great question. It's also full of unknowns. We don't know what COVID's going to do to the budget. We figure that it's going to impact it negatively. So I would go back to my priorities. My number one priority is providing a high quality education for our students. So cuts that I would make would be as far away from that as I could make possible. And the other priority is protecting the physical and mental health of our students. Without that, they can't learn. And that goes for the teachers as well. So that would be high on that list. To solve some of this, I would again reach out to the community, to community partners to fill in some of these gaps. There's no question that we're going to be doing without some things. But if we work with our community, I think we can mitigate some of that harm. So thank you.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. Bland, you're next.
Thank you. I'd like Ms. Avey think it is a really dependent question. It remains to be seen what type of funding is going to be coming from the state government, what type of funding is coming from the federal government, which administration ends up in office. I think all of those things will play a factor in what happens downstream at the district. That being said, I think there are a couple things that we should keep an eye on. First being making sure that when we are making cuts, that we're pushing them as far away from student outcomes as we can. And I think there's things like freezing hiring on positions that haven't been filled yet, cutting back district travel, and just taking some steps that don't necessarily involve cuts, but kind of leaving things how they are now, that could help kind of soften the blow.
Thank you, Mr. Bland. The question now moves to you, Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Grace. We have learned from COVID that all of the planning in the world, something happens and we need to change our plans. And we have done so well with looking at the contingencies. We have already started addressing budget needs right now. We cut travel and conference. We have a hiring freeze in the district. We are looking at what we need to do, not next year, but 3 years out. And that's what continuity does, is it allows people to start working and work ahead, because we always have to be 3 years ahead. Where I would not cut, I would not cut anything that's closest to the classroom. I think our mental health programs such as MTSS are critical for the functioning of our students and our staff members. And I think that we need to reach out to our community and talk with our community about needs. But I also think we need to talk to our staffs, because they are on the front line and we need to know what is critically important for them. Finally, we need to reach out to the federal government and to our state government and lobby and say, we need more money. This is going to be a very expensive proposition, and there is nothing more important than the education of our students.
Costa, then it's time, and I'm going to have to ask you to stop there and move on to our next respondent.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Mr. Brewer, the question now moves to you to answer.
Hi, how's it going? So I'll say the uncertainty of COVID makes it really hard to prepare for the future. So I think the most important thing is to just be adaptable and be prepared to make changes, whether drastic or abrupt. Hopefully something like Prop 15 can expand the budget and give the school more resources and just expand what they are able to spend on. If we do find ourselves in a budget crisis of sorts where we need to make cuts, I think it's important that we prioritize our personnel and make sure our teachers are protected and safe, and are able to still take care of their families, and as well as the other staff that we employ. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer, for that answer. I appreciate it. And Ms. Vieskas, the question now moves on to you.
Thank you, Grace, and thanks for the important question. Certainly our biggest challenge in the near and probably extending a little bit into the further future is uncertainty. As the Board of Education, we actually are required to set and predict a budget up to 3 years out. Meanwhile, we are provided funds from both the federal and the state government on an annual basis. So it definitely makes it hard, and we have to maintain a very deliberate watch on our bottom line. So really, most of what we would have to do to prevent significant cuts and prevent adverse impacts down the future, we're actually putting in place right now by sticking to some key core commitments. One fundamental one being that we will prevent a structural deficit in the immediate and long-term future by ensuring that as we propose our budget, we are not spending one-time dollars on ongoing funds. That is a critical principle, along with many other core commitments that we have all agreed to, that will really set us up for the most success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. And then Mr. Hernandez, last but not least, the question goes to you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Here's the reality of this. The uncertainty is pretty scary. We know that we are going to have to make tough choices. There's no doubt about that. However, we, just as Ms. Vieskas said, we must maintain those core values, which basically is this: we can't spend more than we make. When districts do that, they have problems. We can read about those type of districts in the paper. We're going to have to work very closely with our labor groups. But I would not cut classroom needs, would not cut classroom needs. We are proven stewards of our finances. In the last 6 years, we've had positive certified audits, and we were able to prove that we can manage our money. We will need to continue with these core beliefs, as mentioned before, but we can get through it together with everybody's help. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we move into our fifth question, I would just like to let all the candidates know that you can ask for a question to be repeated at any time if needed. And then, so our fifth question is, some students and staff are feeling isolated and struggling right now. What role do you see the board playing in supporting student and employee mental well-being in order to promote academic improvement? And the first respondent will be Ms. Avery. Thank you.
Thank you. Very topical question. It is true. Students are struggling with distance learning. Parents are struggling with distance learning. Students worry about their parents. Parents worry about their students. And one of the keys to fixing that is getting kids back to school. So the job of the school board, the primary task of the school board, is to get teachers and students back into the classroom. But also we need to do it safely. So I like the idea of, I think one of the problems is the socialization. Kids are feeling really isolated, and that's a problem. I like the idea of maybe creating outdoor learning opportunities, maybe coordinating with the park districts. There's places where they can get together safely, socially distanced, masked up, but they get to see each other. I think that's an important thing that we could do, and I don't think it would really cost a lot of money. We could do it with, wouldn't have to be teachers. It could be things like enrichment, art classes, music, things like that to get them together. The other part is we need to get the kids back in school. So we need to do every single thing that we can to make that happen as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to you, Mr. Bland.
Thank you. While students and staff are still distance learning, I think it's important that we just make sure that we're providing specific avenues for people to get together. And whether it takes place something virtually like this, where you're on Zoom, whether we're setting out days in the park where people can socially distance together, I do think that type of response needs to be led by the district and should be something that we're looking at.
Thank you. Next will be Ms. Costa.
Thank you so much. I keep saying MTSS, and I think acronyms are sometimes hard for people. So let me spell out. MTSS is a program that San Juan has that includes social workers, counselors, nurses who work with students who are having difficulties and families that are having difficulties. So we need to, and we are right now, I shouldn't say we need to, we are utilizing our social workers, counselors, nurses to reach out to students and community workers, community members and parents. But it's also our teachers are doing the same thing. They're reaching out to students who may not have signed on. There's a safety network under our students that we are keeping track of how many times they have been in a synchronous lesson. The teachers reach out, the principals reach out. We are trying to connect in as many different ways to make sure that families that are having difficulties are receiving the services they need. And we also put Care Solace in place, which is a program that allows families to sign on and receive services. All of those things are critical right now where we're at home distance learning. I think we trust our staff because they are doing those things and reaching out to our community. It's critically important that everybody feel they belong. I've been watching synchronous lessons and I love—
time, I'm going to have to ask you to stop there and move on to our next respondent.
Thank you. Mr. Brewer?
Thank you for this question. I think Ms. Costa said it best, and the answer is to reach out. We have to keep reaching out to each other and remaining connected. We have this technology that keeps us connected. So it's our duty to utilize it and to reach out to our teachers and talk to them and ask them what they need and what they need specifically, and make sure that these teachers have their resources that they need, and access to whatever avenues they need to protect their mental health, because happy teachers will do a good job and be more engaged with their students. And so we just need to keep reaching out and keep finding ways to stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vieskas, the question goes to you.
Thanks very much, Lindsay. And first, I just want to acknowledge that I recognize the toll, particularly as a very social and active person. I rely on connections with individuals. I get my energy from it. And so I personally know how hard this has been, particularly kind of being in a high-risk category and having to be extra vigilant. But I know that pales in comparison to trying to navigate students and children through distance learning. And I encourage anybody that needs immediate access to care to reach out and to our Care Solace program, which really has been our primary way to address the needs of our individuals, of our staff and of our community and of our parents while we're in distance learning format. Care Solace connects communities to reliable, ethical, and high quality mental health care services. And in addition to that, our teachers and our staff have done a tremendous job of creating inclusive Zoom classroom environments that really do make our students feel included. I've had the opportunity to sit on multiple, and it's been really amazing to watch their creativity as we all work through this event together.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you so much for the question. Distance learning has been a challenge. There's no other way to put it. And we all want our kids back in the classroom as soon as possible. Let me say that one more time. We all want our kids back in the classroom as soon as possible. With that being said, we need to make sure that it's safe for everybody to do so. We need to, when that happens, we will provide options for our parents and our students to be able to decide what's best for them, whether that be seat-based, homeschool, a modified version, but we will provide options, and we're working hard. We're working hard with our labor partners to make that happen. We're a big district, but we're gonna get there. That being said, we've learned a lot from our distance learning from March. Our teachers now have incredible lessons planned that have been to help them stay focused and teach as a group. And our students are now being able to work in a way that each classroom has a format that they're familiar with, because teachers are now using these incredible lessons plan. And our teachers, to their credit, they have been so creative. And I got an email today from one of our teachers that taught her science class from Bass Pro Shop. That's how creative they have been getting. And that's true, it happened today. So it's been a challenge, but we're getting there. And my hat's off to all our parents. We know what struggles.
And Mr. Hernandez, that is time, unfortunately. We'll have to move on to our next respondent.
Thank you so much. Our final respondent to this question will be Ms. Skrimmick.
Yes, we need kids to be back to school. We need to rise spirit of our schools again. Our decision right now should be thriving through COVID, not to die with COVID. Kids need to get back to school. They can utilize outside spaces. If you look at the places right now, like churches or any community places, they are okay to have up to 20% facility filled. We can have, out of those 46.7% low income families and special ed kids, they can come back to school at least 20% each day. They can rotate. One cohort can come on Monday, another cohort can come on Tuesday, but at least they can check in. At least they can feel that school is still alive. That's something we need to do. And of course, I believe that it should be the whole reconstruction of the classes and sanitization and all the environment should be reconstructed with fundings as a capital investment. We can utilize bond funds and not taking from the operational budget. We can do that. I believe it's just a matter of rethinking, reconstructing, and moving forward. And also, it's a great opportunity to teach.
It's time. I'm going to have to stop you there and move us on.
Thank you, Lindsay, for asking that question, and thank you to all of you guys for answering it so well. We are going to move on to our next question, which will be, how can San Juan implement an inclusive curriculum that reflects current events such as social justice and climate change? Mr. Bland, the question will go to you first.
Thank you, and I touched on this a little earlier. I think the issues of today can be shown in classrooms, whether that is ethnic studies classes, whether we can add foreign language classes in, whether we're updating our science curriculum to reflect the climate change that's happening around us and that we see in our day-to-day. What I would really like to see is where we can play with the education code. Like, where is that gray area where the district can make strides and be progressive and make changes to the curriculum that other districts might not be making and address these issues for our students.
Thank you, Mr. Bland. The question now moves to you, Ms. Costa.
Grace, would you repeat the question, please?
For sure. The question goes as following. How can San Juan implement an inclusive curriculum that reflects current events such as social justice and climate change?
San Juan is providing classes that discuss current events. I've watched it on synchronous learning lessons. I have watched it prior to COVID in classrooms. Students are doing some remarkable work around climate change. The Creek Project is just one of those projects that has been taking place. But if you visit any one of our schools, they are working on climate change issues. Students are studying it. They are offering suggestions. It's very impressive. And so I think that what is happening is our students expect that of us. They expect the opportunity to deal with current day issues. And our pathways are allowing students to work on current day issues. Our regular classroom instruction is doing that. I think we need to continue what we're doing and have the exemplary staffs that we have continue to provide hands-on learning for our students so that they have the opportunity to work on real world problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. We are now going to move to you, Mr. Brewer, to answer the question.
Awesome. Thank you for your question. I think to answer this question, it goes back to hiring more teachers of color, more marginalized teachers from other marginalized communities. I think if we allow these people to tell their stories and teach their stories, you know, it comes from an honest place and it comes from an accurate place. And I think we just need to have honest conversations, and we also need to take the time to listen and understand that everybody's experience is not the same, but everybody's experience is valid. I also think as far as it pertains to climate change, I think we need to listen to science and trust science, and being that this is the science of today, it should be taught in today's classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Ms. Vieskas, the question now goes to you.
Thank you, Grace. And this is another, I would put this in the bucket of kind of making improvements, but room for growth for sure. And kind of want to draw back to a couple of things that have already been mentioned to some extent, but really it's about creating the structural environment for our teachers to really build curriculum and lesson plans that can target and have these conversations that are absolutely critical. And so as part of our efforts, we have a commitment to integrate social justice standards into our curricular content and provide anti-racism and anti-bias education from preschool to adult. And that's one of many examples. And I'll also point to just this last board meeting where we got to hear a really wonderful presentation about our summer learning and lesson design, where one of the silver linings of COVID really has been the opportunity for our teachers to learn from each other and find really, really thoughtful and engaging ways to build these challenging discussions that must occur, that have to keep going into our curriculum. If anything, we've learned over the last couple of months that we can't just focus on COVID. We can't just focus on anti-racist and anti-bias things independently. It has to be a concerted effort. It has to be at every part of what we are putting forward as an institution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez, you are next to answer the question.
Well, unfortunately, one of the problems going last is many people say the things that you want to say in front of you, but so I will just add on this. Just recently, as Ms. Vieskas says, we listened to an outstanding presentation where actually 6 books were presented to us, which were exactly that these books taught the importance of anti-racism and anti-bias. And just the fact that we are providing our teachers the ability to talk about this in their classroom is exactly what we need. And I firmly believe the fact that just the fact that we are taking a robust approach to this is such a helpful for our students to know that we're not afraid to talk about it. We talk about tough things, and in doing so, we all are enriched. So that's really all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Ms. Skrinick, the question now goes to you.
Well, I worked 15 years with the Air Quality Management District, and I was involved with developing projects in regards to climate change. And we developed a lot of different organizations that picked up on the carbon issue, and new organizations were constructed out of that idea with efficiency, with utilizing different types of power. And I've been involved in a majority of projects here in Sacramento City. Well, and I believe our children, our students need to be involved in hands-on work in regards to global warming. I remember my kids were involved in planting invasive plants, plants nearby the creeks, and they were so excited to be involved because they knew that they have a big cause to protect the earth, to protect the climate, which is really empowering for our children. Also, with social justice, I'm going to tell you something really, really strange, but I'm going to say it anyway because I believe it's true. The system of Darwinism being reflected in a little bit kind of racial way. We see the person, if you look at the Darwinism structure, development and transitioning from the dark small person into the white great person is wrong. We need to develop different systems to work with social justice.
All right, thank you so much. And then last but not least, we have Ms. Avey to answer the question.
Ms. Avey, you may be on mute.
Sorry?
There you are.
Again, thank you for the question. And I agree with Ms. Costa. I can see that San Juan Unified has come a long ways in creating curriculum that will mitigate the damage caused by bias and climate warming. It's a work in progress, but everything is a work in progress. We can always be better. But I give them high marks for starting that and paying a lot of attention to it. But what I really like is what I'm seeing in students and how different students are now than even 5 years ago, how much more aware they are of the community in which they live, the social justice problems that they have to deal with, the impacts of climate change. And not only are they more aware, not only are they just learning this stuff, they're internalizing it. And they see their role in how they can make things better. And I think that's actually fabulous, because that's how change happens. It changes when we internalize things, start to see our role, how we can make things better, and then go forward and do it. So I would say we just keep doing what we're doing, and we'll just keep getting better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our candidates. So yesterday, Sacramento County moved onto the red tier of the state's risk monitoring system. If you think it is safe for students to return to in-person learning, how should it be done to ensure safety? If not, what would you do to improve the current distance learning model? Our first candidate responding to this question will be Ms. Costa.
Could you repeat that, please, before she goes? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So yesterday, Sacramento County moved onto the red tier of the state's risk monitoring system. If you think it is safe for schools to return to in-person learning, how should it be done to ensure safety? If not, what would you do to improve the current distance learning model?
Thank you for the question. We were waiting for the county to say that we had reached the level of red, and we have been planning since March 13th to return back as soon as it's safe. We have plans in place that will be discussed at our October 13th board meeting, and I hope everybody attends that board meeting to hear the plans that are in place. We want every student to be safe. One thing that I heard from a parent was, I can make up the learning loss, but I can't have my child brought back to life if you make a mistake. And I haven't forgotten that. We lost a very dear teacher in the district who was retired, but I saw that COVID just doesn't make distinctions. And so we need to be very careful and very clear. We need to make sure we have PPE. We need to make sure that students understand what social distancing is. We need to make sure that we have put out all of the notifications to families. We need to continue to provide choices to our families, because some people won't be comfortable going back. We need to look at a modified hybrid model to start with, and then to expand as we know we are safely moving.
Costa, that is time. I'm going to have to stop you there and move us to our next respondent.
Thank you. Next will be Mr. Brewer.
All right, thank you again for your question. So I think it would be great for kids to return back to schools when it is safe, keyword being safe. I think we should follow the guidelines of our health officials. I don't know about you guys, but this is my first pandemic, so I'm taking it all as it comes, and listening to the experts as far as when we should meet back. And I think Ms. Costa proposed a good idea of doing it in a compartmentalized way, and coming back slowly to ensure the safety of all of our students and our staff. I've lost family members to COVID, so I definitely take it serious and want to protect our community as well. As far as improving distance learning, I think that requires a conversation with our teachers, and asking them, just providing them with the resources that they feel are necessary, and ensuring that all our kids have access to the technology. They've done a great job with the Chromebooks, finding a way to get all our students internet access with hotspots would be a great idea, and I think would be a tremendous improvement to our system. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the question moves to Ms. Vieskas.
Thank you, Lindsay. And first, I want to express my condolences to Mr. Brewer on the impacts that COVID has had personally on you and your family. Also, my first pandemic to be making our way through. And while progressing into the red tier marks significant progress, complacency remains our common enemy. As a hobby, my other job and actually my profession is as Assistant Secretary for Health and Human Services for the state of California. So I have been knee deep in what it means to have an appropriate public health response and making sure that we are maintaining the health and safety of all of our communities, particularly when it comes to what it looks like to bring our schools back in a healthy and safe manner. So while I'm excited that we've made progress to the red tier, our public health guidance says we have to remain there for 2 weeks because that remains a very dynamic number that could change at any moment in time. But our team has been working day and night to make sure that when we are ready and when we have a robust testing and contact tracing effort and plan in collaboration with the Sacramento County Department of Public Health and our Sacramento County Board of Education, we'll be ready to come back in a safe and healthy learning environment for our staff and for our students.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you again. It is exciting to be in the red tier because that means we're moving forward. But that being said, we do have to wait a little bit, but we will also do what we can to, again, get our students back to school as soon as possible. We do need to move methodically and safely. We have a very large district. Yesterday or Tuesday, I attended the special ed roundup, and it was enlightening to know that they are making progress, or they're working on bus routes for our severe students. So it looks like they will be coming back a little sooner than everybody else, and rightly so. These are our special need children with special needs. And so that's gonna be happening fairly quickly. Our poor superintendent, he gets a call probably from every board member to ask exactly what our community is asking: when, how soon, what's the timeline? And to his credit, he is working to be able to provide some information to the district, and that is forthcoming. That being said, we are learning from other districts that have moved forward, and there have been some challenges with them. So we're trying to see what has worked with them and what isn't. So when we do move forward, we don't have to go through those same learning pains. And again, when we do so, our parents and our students will have choices to be able to do what's best for them. And at the same time—
And Mr. Hernandez, then it's time I'm going to have to stop you there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Skinner?
Ms. Skrinig, you may be on mute.
Well, I believe schools should be allowed to apply for waivers and demonstrate readiness for operational safety in their premises. And that's require our maintenance staff to come back to work. It's require bus drivers, it's require janitors to come back. People were laid off and they need to get back to work and prepare school according to the health and safety protocol. And I believe we can bring at least 20% of students each day to be on school premises, to feel this spirit of schooling system, to have a school patriotism back. And I believe San Juan School District had a lot of different pilot programs, and with safety protocol, San Juan School District can lead other schools to follow them with pride and with school spirit.
Thank you. Ms. Avey, the question goes to you.
Thank you. That is the question of the day. I'm probably asked that question more often than any other question. I think it's critically important that we get students and teachers back in the classroom. That's where they want to be, is back in the classroom. We all want to be back in the classroom. But it is also critically important that we do it safely, because it is incumbent upon us to protect the safety of our students and the safety of our teachers. We're fortunate in this county to have an outstanding public health department in Dr. Bielenson and Dr. Kisirier, who offer wonderful guidance, and I know are there to help the schools overcome the issues with testing and tracking and tracing and all of those things that need to be done. And I know the school district has been working hard on this. And it's also fortunate that we have other school districts that have opened, and there will be lessons learned there. But my hope is that we can go through that as quickly as is possible, since we've known for a long time some of the things that we needed to do. Get the schools open so we can get the kids back in school. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final respondent to this question will be Mr. Bland.
Thank you. I think there's two things that I would be looking for. First is going to be clearance from the public health officials and authorities. And then second is going to be more district specific. Can we provide testing with quick turnaround times? Can we provide the necessary contact tracing, and the PPE for staff, for faculty, for students? And without those two things, I think it would be irresponsible to start opening schools.
And that is the final question that we have planned. However, because we knew we might run slightly fast, we also had the students plot 3 bonus questions. And since we do have time for one more question to slide in, Grace, I believe you are next in the question rotation. So if you would like to select one of the 3 bonus questions and ask, and let's go ahead and just restart our order of respondents. So we'll use that order from number 1.
Okay, understood. So I'm just going to go with my favorite question, which will be, as a school board member, what impact would you like to leave on the education system? Mr. Brewer, this question will go to you first.
Can you hear me?
I can. We can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. This is a really good question. The main thing that I hope to advocate for, the impact I hope to leave on, is financial literacy classes and economic science in our schools. I think as of right now, like our high schools are, the curriculum in our high schools are made to get kids to college and don't necessarily prepare them for the real world. So my idea is for financial literacy classes that are graduation requirement, start freshman year, take them all the way through to your senior year. Classes on how to buy a house, how to take out a mortgage, how to pay taxes, what are taxes, what is health insurance, and what is a health insurance market? Why do we pay into it? What can the benefits be? Things of that nature. You know, how to take out a credit card, because college isn't for everybody, but the real world is for everybody. So it's our duty as board members, as parents, to prepare our kids for the real world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. I appreciate that. The next person to answer is going to be Ms. Vieskas.
Thanks so much, Grace, and I appreciate that that was your favorite question. Thanks for posing it. When I think back about the impact that I want to leave on students, you know, prior to COVID upending the world, and before that we had wildfires, we've got, the world is changing by the minute, and that's been the case for a couple of years now, but it feels, you know, every day really does bring on new challenges that we all have to overcome together. And so in a world where literally every information piece is at your fingertips, the impact I want to have is, yes, to educate our doctors and our future teachers and our engineers and our future nurses and our future building trades workers. But more than that, I want to make sure we're building inquisitive and curious and passionate doctors and nurses and professionals, because now more than ever, we need people who are excited about the work that they do and bring that passion to everything that they do. And that's the impact I hope to leave on our students.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your response. Mr. Hernandez, the question now goes to you.
Thank you, Grace. Great question. And for me, there's not even a close second. If I had the ability to help to bridge our achievement gap, that would be a huge accomplishment for me, which would mean this. That would mean that those schools in those lower socioeconomic areas, that they will be able to be better prepared for college. And they will also be able to take advantage of those career technical programs that we offer. There's quite a disparity in our district from one end to the other end. And I think by helping bridge that would be a huge accomplishment. That's my number one.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Now the question moves to you, Ms. Skrinick.
Yes, of course, life readiness is a must, and teaching kids not only academia, but also computer literacy, financial world, practicality, how to fill out application, how to do resume for jobs, how to practice mock interview for the job interviews. It's all need to be in place in the school system for preparedness. But what I would do also, I would stand for the social justice in a very different way. I would go back to the Darwinism visual graph where you see transformation from the faucet into the white human being. I would make a tree to develop branches and to show kids that every person can develop into its own color and shape, and we all on the same tree, to bring equality. That's something we should think, because kids are visual, and I've seen that they put racial slurs on the Darwinism graph, and that's when I used to work at Stockton Unified School District. I found out, and I was personally asking kids, does it bring racism? And all of them told me, yes, it does. It's the beginning of racism. So I believe we can change that together.
Thank you, Ms. Skrinick. Ms. Avery, you're the next person to answer this question.
Thank you. Good question, Grace. For me, it is also, there's no other choice. It's to close the achievement gap between poorly performing students and high performing students. I think that's the most critical thing that we need to do in our education system. What I want is for kids to see their path to success, to find their purpose in their life, because when they see that, regardless of what it is, it may be college, it may be construction, it may be any number of things, but when they see their passion and their purpose, they will succeed as adults. And in that way, we can improve our society, improve our community. So closing that achievement gap is critical. And if there's nothing else that I'm able to do, if I can help accomplish some of that, I will feel that it's been totally, completely worthwhile.
Thank you for that answer. That was great. Mr. Bland, the question now moves to you.
Thank you. Horace Mann, the father of public schools and public education, thought of schools as the great equalizer. And I want the district to reflect that. I think we should be instituting programs that take care of the whole person, whether that's through restorative justice, whether that's through closing the achievement gap, whether that is through helping students find career paths or path to college or whatever it is that they choose. But we can't lose sight of the students as people who are going to go on into society and do things that benefit everyone. So if we can create a system that keeps each person at the center and really can educate the entire person instead of just focusing strictly on the education, I would be very happy with that.
Thank you, Mr. Bland. And then Ms. Costa, you will be the last respondent to this question today.
Grace, I love the question. When I was a teacher and a principal, I had 3 goals for every student, regardless of the grade level. I wanted every student to learn and to be at whatever level making progress so that they graduated college and career ready. And so that was was the first part of the impact. Secondly, I wanted every student to feel emotionally safe in my classroom and to treat everyone in the classroom and the school with dignity and respect. And third, I wanted every one of my students to learn to be a citizen of that classroom as it mirrored being a citizen of our state and our country. And so I wanted them to know that we were setting the stage for adulthood, whether they were in 3rd grade or whether they were in 6th grade, because they really were learning the steps to becoming an adult through love of learning, through emotional safety, and finally through an understanding that their behavior was what made citizenship important and created a sense of belonging. And that's the impact I want for San Juan.
Thank you, Ms. Costa, and thank you to Lindsay and Grace. The questions were phenomenal. You and your peers on the superintendent's student advisory group just did a fantastic job taking all the input that was given to you and really coming up with some great questions that reflected the interest that you saw in those. So thank you so much for all of your help tonight. We are going to move on to our closing statements from our candidates. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to give their closing statement, and we will go in reverse alphabetical order, starting with Ms. Vieskas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen, and thank you as well to Grace and Lindsay and to the superintendent's student advisory committee, both for their participation here, but for all the advice that they give us throughout the year. I just will be frank and say that right now in the 2 positions that I hold, both as currently board president of San Juan Unified School District and as assistant secretary for Health and Human Services, and being at the forefront of where public education meets public health, these are by far the hardest jobs that I will ever have. And I recognize that every day because at this juncture, very rarely are there good decisions. There are no good choices, rather, there's only good decisions to be made on behalf of the nearly 40,000 students that we serve. And so I am asking for your confidence in our continued leadership to stay the course on all of the many challenges that we face as a community, continue to work towards significant improvement and progress that we are all dedicated to. And I'm asking my community for the opportunity to continue this job for the next 4 years, and I would be honored to have your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Vieskas. And our next closing statement will come from Ms. Skrinig. And Ms. Skrinig, you may be on mute.
Thank you so much for allowing me participating today and to be part of the community and be part of voicing out people and neighborhood and we all here in the United States, California, Sacramento, we all proud to be part of the community and part of the educational system. Well, I help hundreds of people to reach their life career goals. As a career counselor, as a clinical counselor, I have my own practice and I deliver healing services on a daily basis. I am running for San Juan School District to help many more to turn anxiety, failure, and frustration into empowerment, confidence, and fulfillment. I believe that we can build safe and healthy environment. We shouldn't stop, we should process and we should progress through the COVID-19 with safe measures. And I believe that better future is ahead of us. And I am willing to work with students, parents, teachers, and administrative staff to gain sense of accomplishment at the San Juan School District Educational Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Skrinick. And next will be Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you to the district and especially our moderators, Grace and Lindsay. We appreciate that. I mentioned earlier that I've been on the board since 2012. The reason I ran then is the same reason that I'm currently running now. I want to bring a business-like approach to the board. We need to continue to make prudent financial decisions. Basically, we can't spend more than we make. This core value has helped our district to positive certified audits for the last 6 years. When other districts around us are having major financial issues, we are steadfast because of our core beliefs. With a very uncertain future, it is paramount that we have a board that continues with these core values. In 2016, I was a co-chair for Measure P, a $750 million school bond. Those funds are currently building new schools and making major improvements to existing ones. I am sure you have noticed these upgrades in new neighborhoods. I'm very proud of that. I would like to extend a challenge to all of you. Please research each of these great candidates. Then I ask you to visit my website at reelectsaul.com. I think you will see that experience matters. I would be honored to represent you again for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. And our next candidate for a closing statement will be Ms. Costa.
I too have served on the board for the last 8 years, and I look at the accomplishments, and I am so proud of what's happened. Our teacher evaluation system is renowned throughout the United States, not just California, and people have come as far as Japan to learn about our system. Our budget, as Mr. Hernandez just mentioned, we have had 6 positively certified budgets, which means we've balanced our budget for 6 years, which is unusual compared to many districts. We've used our bond dollars prudently. We have 5 new schools with 2 under construction right now. We have 2 performing arts centers, 2 science wings, 2 career tech centers, and we modernized lighting, heating, and cooling and phones to save money. With all of those things, we have had a focus on making schools better for our students. I really ask for your support and your vote. I really believe that experience and continuity will matter in the next 4 years as we face the challenges post-COVID. Thank you. Please vote. And please research each of us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. And our next candidate for closing statement will be Mr. Brewer. Mr. Brewer, you are on mute still, sir.
Am I unmuted now?
You are good.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted just thank everybody here for this opportunity. It's been great to meet all of you guys and experience this. I may be a new candidate, but my life experiences makes me plenty qualified for this position, and I feel that my ideas are grounded in those diverse experiences. One of my best qualities is that I'm a good listener. I may not know everything about everything, but I will go and listen to the people that the problem it affects and not project my own ideals, but really listen and work with them to find a solution and figure out what they need. You know, I'm just here to present new ideas, fresh ideas, and you know, I really hope that you guys will give me the opportunity to serve this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. And our next candidate for closing statements will be Mr. Bland.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank the district, the staff, and especially the students, Grace and Lindsay. You both are great. I also want to thank the candidates for coming out and sharing their ideas and having the courage to put themselves out there in a way that is always not the most comfortable to do. And I hope that you see the value in voting for someone new, with new questions, with new ideas. I think that's especially important as the school district looks to make changes that are related to COVID or just changes in modifying the way that we educate our kids. So thanks for the opportunity, and I hope I've done enough to earn your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Bland. And our final candidate for a closing statement tonight will be Ms. Avey.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank our moderators. I've known Grace since she was in kindergarten, and I've seen her at Schweitzer as she's directed the play with my grandkids. San Juan is part of who I am. As I said, I've been here for 40 years. I've had kids and grandkids in the school. It is part of who I am. It's part of what I do. And I know that this pandemic, I can't go without ignoring this or not saying it, but this pandemic has changed us, and it's changed us profoundly. It changes what we do now. It will change the kind of people that we are. And as we move forward, it's going to be important that we write the script for the future, that we do it, that we don't allow events to overtake us, that we make those choices for ourselves. I welcome the opportunity to participate in that challenge. For 20 years, I've worked on boards looking for solutions to really critically different problems. This is a big deal. This pandemic creates a lot of challenges. I'm so impressed with the young people today. I was with my granddaughter today, and we had a very robust conversation about something. So I look forward to serving the district. I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you so much again for inviting me.
Thank you, Ms. Avey. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. That is going to conclude our forum for the candidates of 2020. One of the things that makes San Juan the place that it is certainly the people. So the parents, the students, our staff members, and of course, the board members who we are fortunate to have folks who care, run for our board, serve on our board. So thank you all for stepping forward to put yourself out there in the community. And we appreciate everything that you do to raise conversation. This forum has been recorded. It will be available on the district website as well as our YouTube channel. So you can watch it at any time, share it with your friends. And as we've said, you should research candidates. Links to all of their websites and online presences are available at sanjuan.edu/forum2020. And thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.